Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And today's voice is the one, the only, Jack Richardson. Hello, my G.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, this is our second time of recording because the listeners will know that actually, unfortunately, my MacBook died and our episode died with it. So thank you, of course, for coming back on.
No worries at all. No worries at all.
I
This is
appreciate it.
actually our third attempt.
Yeah. So yesterday I actually went to Jack's and we ended up skanking in the streets and recording it.
Yeah, and I feel like it was very successful time where we were able to do a lot of research for the podcast.
Yep.
You know, um, I've actually got evidence.
Look at this. This guy, he was a G. And
It was great.
what's good about this, Jack, is actually we've been speaking about this, learning to have fun. Like the I feel like obviously the pursuit of competitive bodybuilding, we go through that first initial bit and it's like shit, I'm going to step on stage, and then that brings the hyper focus, etc. Then the second time you compete, you've almost got this expectation of can I do better, or maybe you're trying to push more. And I feel like for sure, and I'm sure you'll agree, that you can forget to enjoy the actual pursuit of bodybuilding.
Yes, yeah. I think you can you can overdo it, and I think obviously when you are constantly placing the emphasis of becoming better and better and better. It's almost leaving you in this point where, right, I need to knuckle down and approach things more serious, even in spite of approaching it very serious initially. You might think, right, for me to be better, I need to not skip a beat, and the boxes I tick. You might have ticked all the boxes before, but I need to apply more intent and more intent. And you get deeper in regard to just how serious you are. And it becomes so deep that you forget to have fun. And, one of the things, like, I went to a seminar with William Bonac, and he sort of, this was years and years ago, and it was a great perspective that he gave, essentially talking about he's had a prep where he's boxed himself in and didn't go anywhere, and he just lives like a robot in the house and whatever. And he's had a prep past that point where he still ate his meals and he still went to the gym, he still got his expenditure in, but he also went out and did things and socialized and whatever. And in fact, that prep was more conducive. That was a more productive prep. He got a better result. And there is something to be said about that. It's the quality of your life does matter with the results that you do get. And it's important to remember that we do this, I would assume, because we enjoy it. So why are we slowly sucking the enjoyment out of it for us, and expecting us to be great? Because it's very hard to adhere to something when you learn to fucking hate it. And you learn to hate it by just taking it too serious. But what actually contributes to being better, the main contributing thing is more time, ticking the boxes,
Yeah.
and it's with intent. It doesn't mean, right, okay, so I did this previous prep and, maybe I had some fun. I still tick the boxes, but now no fun. That will make me more serious. And obviously, this is going to be sort of highlighted a little bit more with the Dorian Yates mindset, where he lived like a monk in a box. And although that is fantastic, and I've more than done my fair share of that shit, I've been on that side, and the preps that were the hardest were not the most successful preps. Those things don't correlate. It's not a matter of, right, the amount you suffer equates to the amount of success that you get in a prep. The more of a shit time you have, the better your physique's going to be. In fact, it's actually can be counterproductive and counterintuitive. You've got to think stress, cortisol, these are not great things for the process. So if you can actually relieve the stress and have a good time throughout it, you're gonna have a good time. And a lovely example is Ronnie Coleman. I had this awesome perspective from watching a Ronnie Coleman video that I've seen many, 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 many times before. We've all seen it. And it's when he's going, "Ooh, lightweight, baby. Oh, yeah, buddy." And at the time, this hit me different watching it this time because I was 5 weeks out. I'm feeling a little bit like shit. And then I see this video. He's also 5 weeks out. And I admittedly, he's fucking way more peeled. It's Ronnie Coleman, right? He is peeled as peeled, right? He was one of the biggest guys on stage, but also one of the most peeled, and that's what made it impressive. But he's acting like he's not even on prep. He's having a good time. He's smiling. He's loving the shit out of it. And this is why it dawns on me. I'm like, how the fuck is anyone going to beat that? Like, fuck genetics or whatever. This guy is going through the absolute hardest part of the process and is treating it like it's a piece of cake. It's a piece of piss. It's the easiest shit in the world. And that's always going to beat other people who are slogging themselves through to tick those boxes because he's doing it with more to spare. He's got more. He could do it again if he wanted to. It seemed that way anyway. And with that mindset, and you're enjoying it, the amount of intent that you're naturally, subconsciously going to be applying over someone who is like, this is really fucking hard. This is really difficult. Or I've got to do this. No, you get to do it. You get to do it. It's great. And also, there's a number of things that you need to do for a prep. Past that, you do whatever the fuck you want, really, as long as it's not contradicting those things.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go out to the cinemas or watch something or go to an event, you can. You don't need to be stuffing your face full of food to have fun. The only thing you can't really do on a prep that's different is eat
Mm,
food outside your plan,
mm, mm.
really, or just miss your training or overexert yourself. But
Mm.
other than that, you're pretty much fucking free. And a lot of people are acting like they're not. And I've
Fifth.
said to my clients as well, like, oh, me and my missus were not able to do things. I'm like, why? Is food the only thing that is brought you together, kept you together? You going out somewhere to eat. Is that the only reason you're together? Surely it's not just food in your mouth.
Mm,
It's why you're in a relationship. Surely there's some other shit you can be doing where you can have a time and create memories and experience. In fact, maybe see that as the challenge. It's like, okay, what new stuff we're able to do now that we've got this limitation? What
mm.
new stuff? And it best not be just I'm going to sit here, eat my chicken or rice, and if I can ignore the other person, because that doesn't need to happen.
It does as well. I feel like you can build both resentment for the process. So if you're telling yourself, I hate this, this is really hard. And the thing is, it's hard, but there's a difference between saying, this is really fucking hard, but I'm here for it, to this is hard, I fucking hate it. But then also, if you've got another half, they can end up resenting your journey, or you can end up resenting them for eating certain foods. So it's this whole like toxic, negative environment for you in your brain, but also in your house, in your relationship. The whole dynamic is actually a negative when, as we both agree, bodybuilding can be such a positive, and it's really hard because I think that there's certain elements of having to do it and then realize that you're doing it to then be able to come away from it. But, you know, people that are listening, it's like if you're listening and you're thinking, I actually do these things, be honest with yourself, right?
Yeah, I think it's very important to recognize that this is a choice that you're choosing to do and be grateful for having that choice in the first place. The fact that you have the ability to weigh your food to the exact gram and do the amount of expenditure to the steps and have that amount of control in your life to be able to do this process, but also recognize that it is your choice. It wasn't someone else's choice. No one's making you do this. So you complaining or putting that on other people and letting it affect other people, that is poor form. And, you know, if you're wanting to have the people around you to support the process that you're on, this doesn't even necessarily just apply to bodybuilding.
Mm.
Just stop letting the negatives bleed into their lives, you know, and let them see the positives that it's bringing to you. And what's really going to help is not being a little fucking bitch and not being a victim and go, oh, poor me, you know, I've got to eat this or I've got to do. No, you get to do these things. You've chosen to do them and you get to do them to get the result that you are working for. You get to be able to have this lovely character building process. And yeah, you can approach it in multiple ways. That's the beauty of it. You can approach it in a very fucked up way, like with the actual approach that you do physically, but also the actual approach mentally. Um, and if you go down that and you aren't aware of how fucked up that approach is, then yeah, it's going to be more likely to bleed into other people and less likely to be supported because it's going to look really fucked up. But it doesn't have to be a fucked up process. And a lot of people come out of bodybuilding and they go, oh, and they bash it and they go, oh, you know, I did this and I got this from it and whatever. Da, 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 da. And a lot of people will say, you know, I've been really fucked up by bodybuilding. They will bash the shit out of it. And it's funny because I've done bodybuilding for 11 years. I haven't had that shit. So that is not a prerequisite to bodybuilding, you know. Potentially went into this with a poor mindset and a disordered mindset.
Mm.
And those disorders sort of grounded and the process fleshed it out. And there have been many occasions with the clients that I've worked with or people that I know where they've overcome certain disorders or certain fucked up mindsets through the process.
Yeah.
I mean, myself, I got into this initially, like a lot of people, you know, there was the incentive of the insecurity, right? You're comparing to other people, you know, I want to lift as much as that guy, I want to be as big as that guy. And there's this feeling of inadequacy that comes off the back of that. But then I realized along the way, if I compare to other people, that is so unfair. There's always going to be an unfair comparison because I don't have the other person's genetics, I don't have their biomechanics, I don't have their exact experience, maybe potentially their goals. I'm not running what they're running for as long as they have. I don't know what their setup is, and there's a lot of missing context, and it is physically impossible to have a fair comparison. So what personally helped myself I know has helped many people and my clients to have this as a much more rewarding process and a less damaging one is when you compare yourself to yourself. When the mindset is, I want to be better than I was previously, either I improve my habits, I improve my mindset, I improve the approach that I've taken, then it becomes much more rewarding. It becomes fun. It's like cool because it's easy. It's fair
Yeah.
when you are comparing yourself to yesterday. It's like, ah, right, cool. I go to the gym. I tried my best to get one extra rep, or just add a little biscuit of weight, or whatever it is. It's just being that little bit better than you were previously. And that way, instead of gaining a fucking a large insecurity and a low self-esteem, you get this unstoppable confidence and high self-esteem within yourself, this self-confidence, because you are constantly bettering yourself. And it's other people are irrelevant. You could like I've gotten to this point where I'm on stage, right? And I don't fucking care about anyone else who's competing on that stage, other than I'm actually looking at those physiques as a fan, rather than, oh God, it's this guy. No, I've come here and this is the best package I've brought because I've done everything I can to beat what I was yesterday. So I'm up there and as a winner before I've even been placed. And that's what has contributed to making this not a damaging process, but a rewarding one. And the crossover from that to life is incredible because you apply that mindset to other aspects of your life. So you can be that 1% better instead of thinking, oh, I wish I had his car, I wish I had their money, or I wish I had this following, or I wish I had da 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 da. No, just do better than you did yesterday. It's as simple as that. Stop overcomplicating it. And essentially, what I'm saying is, it's not that fucking deep. You stop deepening, stop overcomplicating the process, and do what is required, nothing more, nothing less. And past that point, it is what it is. Don't overthink it.
Mhm.
Is it?
It is bodybuilding in itself is, I was talking about this the other day, is a very simple concept. So we train, we eat, maybe we do PDs, depends whether you're assisted. You got to do your posing, like, the bits and bobs that go along with it. But actually, it's pretty simple. So then, like you say, with the overcomplication, I'd be interested to talk to you about your experience with it, with, like the food and the things that you can start to really hyper fixate on, even, training setup, all of these things. Is there times where you've been like, I'm really in my own head with certain parts of the bodybuilding rather than letting it be as simple as it can be?
So like this is coming from a place where I have fallen into those traps where I have let it bleed into other aspects of my life, or I've taken it too serious, or I've done like a ridiculous approach, where I've just it was the most hardcore approach than the other competitors. Did it win me the show? No, so it doesn't really fucking matter, does it? Who had the hardest fucking prep?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who lifted the most weight or this, that, da, 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 da. The only thing that fucking matters, the only thing that judges care about is how you look at the time that you are on stage. That's it. What has contributed to that doesn't matter as long as they only care if what you look like at that time. And there's definitely been times where I've overthought it and I've looked too much into something and then I've gone, this is sucking the joy out of it, or I'm not really getting anything extra out of this. In fact, it's killing the whole progression because I'm so focused on this one thing. And if I could give advice to anyone that's listening, please just emphasize the broad strokes rather than the finer details, especially if you are new. Like that's the main shit that matters. Trying to, get your REM perfect to the minute, or trying to time your when you put on your blue light blockers, or be right exactly at the point of the exact same time you eat your meals. You know, the guy who's just eating in a fucking surplus and training really hard with decent form, he's making shitloads of progress.
Mm.
You overthinking potentially one or two areas of these things and missing out on the actual broad strokes of the process you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're also sucking the fucking joy out of it. And this is the issue that we're seeing, is because there is a large quantity of information out there. I think, I was quite fortunate to just get into this right before social media. It blew up on social media. So I could get this very organic, authentic love for just training really fucking hard and eating shit tons of food. And if I could go back in time and shake my hand for anything that I did, it would be that. It would be the fact that I just trained like a yeah, okay, maybe if I look back, there are some certain things that I could fucking change, but at the end of the day, if I was to compare the approach that I took when I started, which was a lot blinder of just like, food will make me grow, and if I train really fucking hard and do some disgusting shit sessions, then I'm gonna fucking grow. If I was to compare that to how people getting into this sport are doing it now, yeah, like I was in a position to make more progress because they're thinking, oh, if I train really too hard, then my fatigue management's going to be off. And then if I don't get the alignment right, then I'm not going to be hitting this in the most optimal manner. And you're missing the fucking point. You're so focused on getting the alignment, you're not even fucking training hard in the first place. Or like you're so concerned of overtraining, so concerned that you're not training fucking hard enough. You're so concerned at the right, the nutrition timing and all the nitty-gritty of nutrition that a qualified nutritionist would probably be looking into when you just started this fucking process. And realistically, you can respond like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And again, like it doesn't matter how perfect your alignment is, or how much you are managing your fatigue, or how optimal your exercise selection is, or how awesome your nutrition setup is in regards to nutrition timing and just its overall optimality. The simple fact is, you're not going to make fucking progress if you're not eating in a surplus, or if you're not training hard enough. You can nail all those things, but if you're not eating enough, then it's pointless. You can do all those things. If you're not training hard enough, then it's fucking pointless. So yeah, like again, you could be overthinking it to the point where like someone who's put a fraction of the thought in could be flying by because they're just nailing the broad strokes, which is a much, much more simpler, but much more crucial
mm.
part of this process.
As well, if you do over worry and, hyperfixate on these things, it does like I feel like it's almost you're convincing yourself that certain things are more important than the fundamentals, the simple bit that I mentioned, right? The training, the food, etc. You start looking for all these ways to monitor everything and all of the different things that we can add on because it's this like clickbait social media world and it's like, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Just
Yeah,
strip it back and
yeah, yeah.
adhere to the fundamentals and adhere to that for years potentially to get to your and then what's the potential, right? Like people say, oh, you've reached your potential, but how do you know that, right? Like you've got to keep going into that discomfort, keep doing like you said, that 1%, and there's so much that can come from it, but you're the minutia that just gets in your head because you see someone else doing it or you've seen this reel or whatever, and it's like just enjoy it for the love of the journey.
And this is where social media, although it's great, actually being able to be giving you the ability to access information. It's this information overload, especially when it's very saturated and people are trying to find ways to get people to view their shit. So they're going to be coming up with funky little shit. And also speaking in the absolutes about it, it's like the bench press will not grow your chest. That is a shit exercise. You should be doing this instead. And, this guy is just trying to make a fucking living or get some likes on his post.
Mm,
But the people watching are paralyzed with information and they're overthinking everything. When again, if you want to grow muscle, just eat in a sensible surplus and train really hard with good form. And that's it. That's
mm,
really as simple as that, you know, and do that consistently.
mm,
The person who is consistent is going to be the person who is optimal for, you know, some of the time.
mm, mm,
That person who's just consistent with the broad strokes, they'll be flying with the progress and they will have a lot more freedom in their life, in their mind, to be able to do and have fun with it as well.
mm. You forget sometimes as well, don't you, as a bodybuilder, you're like, what is, well, I do anyway. What is fun? What do I do outside of this? And then it's again, like you say, your mind, it's like opening your mind, what are the things I can do as a bodybuilder rather than, and it complement it rather than it has to be, but like you said earlier, have to go for food to enjoy myself. What other things can you do? What sort of stuff would you get up to?
I dance with homeless people on the street.
Me too.
Yeah.
I started yesterday.
Yeah, it's a great thing to do. I mean, there's loads of stuff. I mean, you go for walks, you go for hikes and stuff like that. There's stuff that I've done even in the off season. Um, Again, going to the cinema, you going to there's so much. Everything that doesn't involve ramming food in your fucking mouth, pretty much. Like, yeah, you can fit that in. And even in the off season, you can incorporate that in as well. It's really on prep where you are a little bit more restricted. And again, prep isn't this thing where you start it, you suffer like shit throughout all of it. You know, Actually, a lot of prep shouldn't be fucking suffering. It's the end bit that is the hard bit. Yeah, when you're pulling off that last bit of body fat and you're getting extremely low. Okay, yeah, cool. There's going to be less leeway to have fun. It's not going to be the funniest thing to do. You are literally fighting your own bodily instincts. Your body's going to be like, please fucking eat, man. Come on, or just, stop. Just stop, and you will have to fight against that. But that's not the rest of your time bodybuilding, the majority of your time bodybuilding. That is for most people just a matter of weeks, really. Um, and it's again, it doesn't have to mean that like at that part, yeah, okay, it's got to be a little bit hard, but also the hard shit is still great about this process. It's still very fucking good because it adds to your character. That's the character building. You don't want this shit to be easy because if it was easy, then everyone would be doing it and everyone would have this fucking Mr. Olympia physique and it would be worthless because it would be so attainable. And things that are very, very, very attainable, again, everyone would fucking have them and they wouldn't value it. So, you want the adversity there because not only does it make it that much more valuable, but the process of doing that is going to contribute towards your resilience and your strength as a character and just your overall character and personal development. If someone was to hand you a Mr. Olympia trophy, go, you're Mr. Olympia now, well done. Do you think that would mean fucking anything, in comparison to what it actually takes to become Mr. Olympia? You'd be like, cool, nice.
Thanks, bro.
But like, yeah, that's one. But if you actually earn that or earn the pro card or earn that show that you're trying to win, rather than just someone handing you the fucking trophy, go, yeah, you won this show, mate. Then that's the value. It's less about the actual trophy. That's just a symbol. And this is why, people don't get it when they say, all that for a trophy. Well, yes and no. Yeah, you do get a trophy at the end of it all, but It's actually recognizing it wasn't about the destination in the first place. It was the fucking process.
Mm.
That's what it was about.
I
The
want to
destination.
I want to talk about when you got your pro card this year, because that obviously is something that, again, a bit of a social media thing at times with like, it's not validated unless you get the IFBB pro card, and that can weigh so heavy on people. It's like if you haven't got that, then you're not anyone. But actually, the pursuit to get it, like you say, the journey to get it. And obviously, you've said you've been bodybuilding for 11 years. So a lot of preps have gone into that. How does it feel now to be an IFBB pro? Is it still a bit like, I'm an IFBB pro here?
Um, it's a mixture of feelings. But again, I'm glad it was as hard to obtain as it was. I'm glad that I got it the year that I got it. Um, yeah, because it actually reiterated what I touched on. Because it wasn't the hardest prep I've ever done to obtain it, you know? Uh, and that doesn't mean like the correlation of it has to be the hardest to obtain that. And I remember actually receiving it, and that was a contributing factor to me having a little bit of an imposter syndrome with it. I'm like, but I've suffered more than this in a previous prep, so do I really deserve this? And but like again, it just goes to show like the judges don't give a fuck how much cardio you've done or how many drugs you've taken or all of this, that, the other. They care about the physique on the day. Fortunate enough for myself, I got it, and also I'm like I said, I'm glad that it was as hard to obtain as it was, because the process of obtaining that for 11 years I've had this goal. I've never had that for anything else. And to set something up when you're really fucking motivated for it at the very beginning and then follow through, even through times where that motivation dips to potentially fucking zero, and all you've got to keep you going is discipline and the hopes that it is going to fucking pay off because it's not a guarantee. That in itself teaches you some shit about yourself that you is very hard to grasp anywhere else in life. And I got to a point where I built such resilience where I was prepared to have the shit beat out of me and get up every fucking time. I was prepared to fucking fail and fail and fail and fail and just get the fuck up. So much so, I forgot to prepare myself to actually win it. And that was the other contributing factor. Like when I'm lining up, I'm thinking, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it. This is the closest I've ever come. I will get back up from this if I don't get it. And they call my name out. I'm shocked. I'm like, oh my God.
It's me.
It's me. I was prepared to get back up. Essentially, the process, what it taught me. And this is the shit I bang on about all the time. If anyone follows me, they would have heard me say it. It's too fucking easy. Why do I say that? It's because in my mind, I am prepared to do way more than the process requires. And because of that, the process is too fucking easy. It's because of that. It's not necessarily I am doing more than what is required. I'm prepared to go there if needed. And again, it was through the process of losing shows, of failing, of having this this carrot dangling in front of my face. That is the pro card for years and years and years and years in a row. That contributed towards that. And if someone was to give it me from my first year, like there you go, there's a pro card, I would have missed out on all of that. And it would have been such a shame because I wouldn't be the person I am today. And that's why I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm like, In retrospect, I'm like, thank you. Thank you for making it so fucking hard to get to here,
Mm,
you
mm,
know? But also thank you for eventually fucking giving it me because it'd take a while. But again, like I would have gone for 12 years, for 13. And this is what, for people who are listening, when they are setting this goal of obtaining a pro card, because it gets thrown about and people seem to think it is this easy thing to obtain. I've had clients come to me and they say, I want to become a pro in the next couple of years. And they've just started training. And I remember at the time, I'm still going for it. I'm like 9, 10 years into this. I'm still going for it. And my question is for you, it's like, if you don't get it in that time frame, do you still want it?
mm,
Like if you don't get it within a year or two or three or four or five, six, seven, eight, nine, do you still fucking want it? Because bodybuilding is like no other sport in the respect that this takes time. This is a time-based sport. You cannot just have the physique like that. You cannot.
mm,
It takes years and years and years, and that's where the discipline comes in, because it's a lot of just this blind faith that it's going to lead to somewhere. In those off seasons when it's hard to see your progress because you're masked in body fat, and it's you don't have the clout of competing behind you, and people aren't really asking about it anymore, and you're still contributing to it, and you're still getting everything you can, and maybe potentially you haven't had a win in a while or anything. But again, that ambition, is it still going to be fucking there? And if so, if you can still hold on to that glimmer of hope that it will happen one day, even if it's not very, very fucking clear, then that in itself, that's what makes a champion.
mm,
That's what makes a professional. To actually obtain a pro card, you need to be a pro before you are a pro. You need to be a champion before you are a champ. And that's the champion mentality. It's not the actual success. It's the cost.
mm,
Are you prepared to pay what it costs? And that is time. That is failing.
mm.
That is getting back up after the fucking 10th time of being kicked down with no promise that it's actually going to pay off. Are you prepared to pay that price? Because if you're not, save yourself the time and choose a different sport, man. Go something that's more quick, more a quicker, gratifying process. Because bodybuilding is the epitome of delayed gratification. And that process of delayed gratification, like I say, contributes to so much to your character development, and the crossover in life is phenomenal if you're open-minded enough to let that in, those perspectives in.
Be a badass. Like
Yeah.
it's such a I always say this, I'm like, it's so epic to be part of such a small percentage that work on themselves every day. And even like you say in the growth phases when it's like, you do feel the body fat go on and you feel different. And as you say, you're not competing and stepping on stage. So that can drop off. But then you start to realize, right, that if if you're externally motivated, that's going to affect you. Whereas if you're in the depths of off season and you're like, I'm fucking here for this, I'm progressing, I'm pushing, I'm doing something every day. That's
Mhm.
the difference, right? Because you don't need the gratification and this like validation from everyone on social media because you have to do it. And that's the same in a prep. Like no one's going to do the fucking stepper for 2 hours for you. It's like
Exactly.
you've got to find it there. And yes, it's nice when people support you on social media and it adds that sort of fluff. But I always believe it should be almost like a cherry on top rather than oh, this is going to get me to do the thing,
Yeah,
whatever phase you're in.
you nailed it, Sarah. Like that's absolutely spot on. It's the validation has to come from yourself. Anything external, that's not something you depend on. That's just a nice optional extra. Essentially, you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to want this more than anyone wants it for you, by quite a fucking bit more than your friends, your family, your coach. You know, you've got to want it when no one else fucking cares whether you want it, whether you get it or not, or where if no one's keeping you accountable to go and get it, you've got to still do the shit. I mean, like, I've pursued this when my life was set up for it. I've also pursued this with the same intent when I'm homeless and I'm eating out of fucking food parcels. You know, again, like after this, the year before the pro card, I dislocated my shoulder in my rotator cuff area. I couldn't train for fucking months. It was all kinds of fucked up. And then I got ill. I had this fucking long COVID that lasted for months where, you know, if anyone's had that, it's very frustrating because you're like asking your body, it's like, can I train today? No, I'm ill. Oh, it's been 2 months. Fuck me. Um, and that was that was straight after,
Ah.
yeah, that was straight after this shoulder thing. So I'm having months of suboptimal training, but I'm controlling the controllables. I'm doing what I can, you know. And again, in retrospect, looking back, I'm like, again, there was a lesson in that, you know, control the controllables, so just focus on what? But like I started this prep with in mind that I've had all that shit go on. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and have my most ambitious year, but I've got to fuck around and find out and have enough faith in me that I can pull this off. And there were plenty of people that told me, you know, this is not going to be the year. You won't be able to do it, or you can't do it in that way, or this, that, the other. If I was to listen to one of those people, they would have been right. I listened to me and I was right. And that's the thing. You got to believe in yourself. You've got to validate yourself because like people don't know you better than you know you. People don't know how much this means to you. And you shouldn't let someone tell you how much this means to you or how possible this is or how much you're willing to give to this. That should come from you. Because if you place your self-worth, and this is not just bodybuilding. If you place your self-worth in the hands of other people, in the hands of external validation, then fucking hell. Your self-worth is so easily manipulated. It could be like you could feel fucking awesome about yourself because you get a bunch of likes and comments saying, well done. And that quite often happens in a prep or you're going for a show. And then you can get some dickhead who feels bad about themselves leaving a shitty comment. And you're going to let that reflect on your self-worth. You're going to give that person the power. You're going to give other people the power to make or break you who very likely do not fucking know you. Like, that makes no sense.
We
Like,
totally do it in life, don't we? And then it's like you do get to a point where you're like, I've got to fucking cut off this noise because it becomes so detrimental. And when you are posting for likes and you get caught in this, I guess it's almost like a dopamine hit, isn't it? And
yeah,
whatever. And this validation, it just detracts away because that could be it's a bit like scale weight, right? When your scale weight doesn't do what you want it to do. In the past, it's like the whole day's ruined. Same with you could do a post. You could really put a lot of effort into it, maybe do a reel or whatever, and you're like, right, I'm really proud of this bit of content. I'm sure you're the same as me. Sometimes it's like I put a lot into this. If you were to rely on how many people liked it or how many watches it gets, I mean, that could just really fucking chip away at you, and then feeds into this like I'm not a good bodybuilder, I'm not a good person, I'm not a good coach, and all of this stuff. And
yeah,
it is hard at times, isn't it?
it is. And it's like, again, you're at the mercy of external validation. And this is why, again, bodybuilding, and I always could draw something out that you can apply in life with bodybuilding. Again, that's what makes it a more rewarding process and a better teacher. It's like y- that could be applied for content creation if you wanted to be a content creator. That's delayed gratification. You know, it's very rare that you post something and you nail it and it blows the fuck up. or quite often for content creators or people wanting to make it as influence or just something on social media, it requires you to post and no one to give a fuck for a long time. And it's demoralizing. You put a lot of effort and you get little out of it. Much like when you go to the gym for the first time, after you go for the first time, you'll see fuck all. The second time, you'll see fuck all. The third time, you'll see fuck all. Keep doing it over an accumulation of time. You've built something. Same with social media, same with business, same with a lot of things in life. And it's actually investing in that delayed gratification that will lead to something greater, potentially greater than you ever thought was possible. And again, contribute towards your own character, personal development along the way. But if you just keep succumbing to short-term gratification, you're in this endless loop of comfort, and it's not great for self-esteem. It's not great for ambition. It leaves you complacent, and yeah, you're not going to evolve as a person. Oh, I want to feel good. Okay, boom, instant gratification. Ah, there we go. No, you want to feel good from delayed gratification. Okay, go again, go again, go again, go again, and then you feel good, and then that it's a lot more sustained. It's a lot more gratifying than the short-term gratification process. And again, that you learn a lot about yourself and you build something for it. And unfortunately, a lot of people just opt for that short-term gratification. And this is why you've got a lot of motherfuckers going, oh, I want a pro card like this. I want to become a superstar on the internet like this. It's almost like this entitlement. But for people listening who are not really in that mindset, now's never been a better time to outwork those motherfuckers because that's what the average is now. Now's never been a better time to be above average because whilst they're just off chasing their fucking dopamine and short-term gratification, you keep your head on and just go for that goal that you set yourself in 5, 10 years time. A lot of people overestimate what they can achieve in a matter of weeks or months, but grossly underestimate what they can achieve in 5, 10, 15 years time.
Yeah, and making memories along the way as well. Like,
Big.
there's so many things, isn't there, where you're like, fucking hell, I can't believe I did that in a prep, or like, there's just so many things from the bodybuilding itself, isn't there? And then,
Yeah.
you can connect with like-minded people, and a lot of people that listen to the pod, because I talk a lot about the external pressures as well, and finding your people and finding your own voice. A lot of people that listen reach out and they're like, I don't really have that many people around me. I don't, I've only got trusted people and a smaller circle. And I certainly feel like, I'm sure you're the same, that a lot of people now are gravitating towards more of a quality circle, a smaller circle, a more quality, human beings in that circle, rather than, you've got the extreme of like social media is like, you don't even meet these people, right? And half the time you meet them, you're like, you ain't the same person here, mate. And then you've got like those quality humans that you rely on. And I think it's important as well if you're facing external pressure that also contributes to the lack of self-belief, this lack of self-worth, and all of these things that we're speaking about, to be able to reassess your circle. But that's not always easy, is it, as well?
Yeah. I mean, that in itself takes just being honest and being reflective and being open to actually some harsh realizations and not ignoring that. It just takes the pursuit of truth, and the pursuit of truth is, whilst it is an adventurous pursuit, it is also a very hard and painful one. And sometimes you can assess your circle and go, there is this, but I'm going to ignore it. Maybe it's nothing, or that's just them, or whatever. Or you could go, that's because you are essentially a product of your environment and your circle, and you go, there's a toxic person, and potentially you've spoken and you've tried to help them with it or whatever it is, and they're not listening, they're not changing, they're not willing to change, they're not willing to look and take accountability for their actions or whatever. And that's the hardest thing is when someone is not necessarily intentionally doing it, but sabotaging the way that you're going,
Mm.
stunting your growth. The hardest thing is to realize and accept that and then take action and go, I've got to move on from this. I think this relationship is not serving myself in the way that it should do, and it's actually I'm giving more than I'm getting back, or it's just stunting my ability to grow as a person. It's actually dragging me back. It's actually, that person is not compatible with my morals, my integrity, my core values, and they're limiting my potential that I
Mm.
have. And it's a lot easier when it's intentional, when someone's doing it like intentionally trying to fuck you over. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, hey, miss the gym. Here you go to that. Let's do this instead. Let's do this instead. And you've already stressed how important this is for you. And instead of supporting you with it, they're just coming up with a bunch of fucking distractions. It's like, hey, don't worry about. Listen, mate. You're not really being realistic here, or do you not think you're being a little too ambitious? With this or whatever. How's about fuck off? How's about I'm going to do it, and if you get my way, cool, I'll steamroll you.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know, it's like that. Coming to that type of mindset. That's hard. That's hard, but it's powerful when you get to it. And again, it's that pursuit of truth and being honest. And it's also looking at yourself and going, am I allowing people to come into my life and sabotage me? Am I respecting my boundaries? Am I setting them? Am I respecting my time? Am I respecting my own goals? Am I putting other people's goals in front of mine, without the recognition for doing that?
Mm.
Am I just sacrificing myself, my own life, for the sake of appeasing other people? And that type of reflection is a hard one. And this is why a lot of people would opt for a beautiful lie than a painful truth. And this is why they would quite often go and try to stay in that comfort of what they know,
Mm. Mm.
because that outcome is predictable and there's more certainty with it. And the truth, has a lot of uncertainty attached to it. So, oh shit, this person isn't who I thought they were, or yeah, this isn't what, yeah, I should be doing it, or shit. But that pursuit of the truth, although it's scary or although it's harsh at some points, it's also adventurous and it can take you to places that you didn't even know existed.
For sure. It's as well the feeding of when you're honest with yourself, like are you feeding off toxicity? Like are you
Mm.
liking this sort of hate dynamic? I even see it with, from my own observations. I don't know if you've seen this. I don't think I've ever mentioned this on a pod, but sometimes there can be almost mildly abusive coaching relationships as well, where like the client quite likes to almost be low level abused, if you know what I mean. And I've seen it and I'm like, is this the client that's maybe like feeding off that rather than, maybe the coach is in the wrong or whatever? If this is the way the coach operates, if they're a dictator and that's how they vibe and that's what they say, actually, why are you drawn to that? Is it because of something within yourself rather than maybe the coach
Yeah,
is a shitbag?
it's hard to recognize as well, sorry, if you don't know any different.
Yeah.
Like if the relationships that you've been in are constantly, individuals that fucking gaslight you and, they're never in the wrong, it's you and whatever, you're susceptible to go to a coach that says, right, you didn't make the results because it's your fault, or it's like, hey, coach, I have an issue. It's like, yeah, no, it's actually this, it's because you did this wrong or whatever, or not taking accountability for. it's like, oh, coach, I'm actually getting fucked up here. It's and your coach says, you're a bitch. You're just not, you don't want it enough. Instead of taking accountability, going, hey, this plan that I've written is actually not the best plan for you, and we need to refine this and find a better approach that suits you. And that I'm wanting to work on it until it suits you. But from a client's perspective, especially if you've never been coached before, especially if that's all you've known from people, it is going to be hard to recognize. And unfortunately, there are a lot of coaches that have this narcissism about them that will go, hey, it's your fault. I'm never wrong. I can't take accountability for any mistakes I make. And yeah, and they'll just blame the client every fucking time. It's never their fault.
Mm, mm,
Like personally, again, that's unfortunate because the coach could actually have this opportunity to be better and to learn something and go, oh shit, I've made a mistake.
mm,
Every coach has made a mistake
mhm, mhm,
because the whole coaching process is an educated guess.
mhm, mhm.
It is everything's an educated guess, even the smallest thing. I'm going to drop this amount of calories. This should elicit this rate of loss. Okay, it didn't. Okay, cool. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big mistake
Yeah.
or like this massive tragedy.
Mm,
But it's like, okay, that didn't work out the way we want to. Okay, cool. This is what we'll do to amend it. And the more that you're willing to look introspectively and take accountability and learn and allow yourself to be humbled and allow yourself to instead have this dictatorship role, but more of a democracy role with the client, the more ability you have to evolve as a coach and be a better coach.
mm, mm.
But again, it's this level of like narcissism from the coach. And yeah, you are right. There's some clients that will just accept it.
And be attracted to it almost or maybe I've also had stories of, and this is friends as well, that thought they wanted that, and then they're like, I feel like a piece of shit. I want a coach that, isn't that way.
Yeah, yeah. Again, because like potentially they think that's what the process is.
Yeah,
I,
suffering from
I,
the coach also. Yeah.
yeah, they're like, okay, well, this is what the process is. Maybe I don't like the process. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't like it. Maybe it's not made for me. And it's unfortunate because this process could be done in so many ways. There is absolutely the option for individuality in it. That you don't have to be doing, you have to train like fucking Ronnie Coleman. You have to train like Dorian Yates. You don't have to do it like this or that. There's so many ways to skin a cat. Find a way that suits you. And if you're working with a good coach, a legitimately good coach, and that doesn't necessarily mean the coach with the most followers or the
Or
coach
push
with the
odds.
most clients, if you're working with an actual decent coach, they should be fucking up for finding an approach that works for you. And yes, okay, there are some clients that you can't help. You constantly refine and refine, and they're just not willing to work at all. But I'm talking about, a client that just maybe needs to go from here to there and make progress,
Mm,
or
mm,
maybe needs to work, have a little bit of empathy from the coach and go, let's do some mindset set shit before we can get the physical transformations. But yeah, again, this is as just on the coach because this is very saturated, the coaching industry is. It is up to the client. The client doesn't have to be blindly following everything a coach should say. You
mhm.
know, a, a client should be able to ask questions, and a good coach should be more than willing to fucking answer them with something other than just trust the process. It's like, I'm the coach. You do as I say. They should be more than willing to educate on that process and go, or it's like, hey, coach, I don't feel comfortable doing this. Or could you tell me more about this and why we're doing it? Or why do we need to take over a gram of tren?
Yeah. It's wild.
It's like, is there an alternative to this? No, it's my way or nothing. Cool. Well, fuck off then. I'll get a coach that will meet me in the middle. That's what your mindset should be as a client. Vet your coaches out, you know, and don't just, again, it blows my mind that if a client is paying you money and you're speaking and treating them like absolute shit, some coaches get away with it. And I'm like, how?
I know.
I would be terrified, but also ashamed to treat a client like that. If there's a client that's giving me the time and the money and the effort and the trust with their livelihood, really, the lifestyle, the goals, their ambitions. I'm going to treat that with the utmost respect and find the best way to get there. And I'm sure you're exactly the same. Sorry, in fact, I've seen that, you know. And for some reason, for some fucking reason, there are coaches that don't have that mindset. Even though the whole point of coaching is to help people. You know, yes, it is a business. We've got to all make money, but it's not just about making money. If it was just about making money, go into fucking stocks or go into fucking property or some shit. You know, you're in the business of helping people, so put some fucking effort into it.
You're literally controlling their whole life, and I love it when people ask questions, and it can be just like you said, it can be a slight change, and they're like, "Why are we doing that?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna hit you up with a voice note. It's story time." But it's like even those simple things, it also buys people into the process, right? Like if you know why you're doing something, then you're probably going to have a little bit more oomph to want to do it, and you build that bond with your coach. And it's a shame when you hear so much that does go on and what can be delivered from bodybuilding, because also we've spoken about if you resent the process, if you bash bodybuilding, that could be because you've had a bad coaching experience, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And again, it's like I can empathize with if that's all you know it to be, then that's going to be your opinion of it. And that's unfortunate.
Mm.
And I've done this, I suppose, like because I've just stuck this out, for as long as I've done, I had the ability to be fortunate enough to see the difference in approaches and whatever, and to have those perspectives that, okay, cool, there's so many ways to do this shit. And that in itself makes it so easier, so much easier because it's like, especially when you're in the mindset of mainly focusing on the broad strokes, there's so many ways to eat in a surplus. You know, it doesn't have to be the most optimal way. And people are forgetting part of optimality is enjoyability, you know, and there's so many ways to go to failure. It doesn't have to be a top set and a back off set. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be a heavy then a light set. It doesn't have to be two sets per exercise. It doesn't have to be a low volume, high intensity approach. There are so many ways, so many ways. And you can mix and match and whatever
Mm.
and have the element of preference. And that's why, yes, I do have philosophies of how to do things, but also I'm not so rigid where it's like, this is the training plan and this is the way to do it, or this is the only way to get in a surplus or a deficit or whatever. I'm able to meet the client in the middle a lot easier because I understand that there is so many different ways to approach this, and that is quite evident by the variety of approaches taken from the different world-class coaches, different world-class athletes. You look at the Olympia stage, any category, any division, and chances are they're all gonna have some difference in their approach.
Yeah.
They definitely aren't all going to be approaching this the same way,
Mm.
even though the utmost excellence of the sport. They've probably got very, very different approaches. I mean, there are some people, some coaches out there that will ask the client to weigh themselves every day,
Mm.
you know? And then you've got Samson, who's Mr. O, who doesn't weigh himself during a prep.
Mm.
Why? Because he loses his head.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he's he he does it more visually than the scale weight. And he's been able to win the Olympia.
Mhm.
So it's worked. So yeah, although like there is absolute merit to taking your average weight of the week, um, potentially doesn't suit absolutely everyone. And potentially may do more harm than good in the process. And instead of going, right, you've got to weigh yourself every day because that's the most optimal thing to do. You've got to. Actually, this is quite damaging for you. You're drawing too much of a connection with the scale weight. So we can find an alternative method.
Yeah, I love that because I actually spoke to a client literally about this the other day, and it's like if you start to feel a certain way about scale weight, first prep that we're doing, have a conversation. Now we're very close. We've been working together like, a number of years before even in doing the prep. And it's a new venture. Should be listening, D. And I explained why we're going to take, as you say, the weekly average and what we're doing there. But I just want to hear from you if this causes any type of thought processes, if this becomes away from this being data collection and what have you. She really knows my thoughts. It's about your physique. This is not Weight Watchers, and this is what I always say. But also having that conversation. Now, I wouldn't have had that conversation if one, she didn't trust me, two, that I didn't answer questions, but also the intrigue from her. Like, okay, so why do I weigh a bit more in this phase? Can I ask that? Can you teach me? Can you teach me? Can you teach me? And I'm like, of course. And this, I'm sure you're the same. It's it's so good when you get this with a client and they're like, teach me, It's amazing, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because they're actually that into the process. They want to learn more about it and, know why it's happening. That's how you know someone's invested in it. Um, if they're asking questions, they want to learn more just out of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of coaches see that as a question on their authority or an attack on their abilities. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a
No.
client just wanting to know more. I know that when I've worked with a coach in the past, I ask questions because I'm interested, and it actually helps from an adherence standpoint to know me doing this thing. I know the reason why, and I can visualize it in my brain like this give me this advantage. I'm getting this from it. Um, especially very early on in the process when, I was new to it. I didn't have the context that I had now. I'd be asking a bunch of questions, and it'd be incredibly disheartening if someone just goes, just trust me. Just, like, yeah, okay, maybe I do, but maybe I actually just fucking want to know why.
Yeah, yeah, I want to learn because, as well, of course, we haven't spoken about it yet, but you obviously self-coached yourself to the pro card as well. Now, as we've spoken about, as it gets to the depths, and we can talk about, what you work with Tom a little bit there as well, but it's like being able to do that when you first started bodybuilding. Imagine telling yourself you're going to coach yourself to that pro card. You'd be like, fuck off.
Mm, I know it would have been, especially when I first started bodybuilding. Yeah, because it actually, because I started bodybuilding, I started competing when I was 18. And yeah, I'm 27 now. I started training when I was 16, and it blew my mind the fact that a coach could look at my physique and see visual changes on a week-to-week basis and make a decision based off a photo. Like that concept blew my mind, but also heavily intrigued me. And obviously through the process of, well, one coaching, um, I've been coaching for it's coming up to 8 years now. I've done a number of preps. I've paid attention. I've asked the questions. I've spent my time. Like you asked, what do you do for fun? Like, for fun, I've actually researched into bodybuilding in my spare fucking time.
The same person.
Yes, yeah, literally. But I found that fun. And why is this doing this? And I'm listening to pros. I'm going to the seminars. I'm listening to podcasts and all types of stuff. And also paying attention to how my body's responding to certain things and learning to listen to the language of my body and the biofeedback. And then I got to a point of at first it was like a fantasy, a pipe dream of it would be cool to coach myself to the pro card. And then I'm like, it would be really fucking cool. And then I would fight it off. I'm like, yeah, but that's like a really important year. You don't want to fuck it up. And, you don't want to have the ability to get a pro card and then you've lost your goddamn mind at the end of it and fucked it up because you coach yourself. And I almost had this thought that it'd be arrogant if I just was to coach myself and go, hey, you could be a pro or whatever. Because at that point, I've never turned anyone pro. So for me to
Okay.
turn myself pro as the first person I turned pro, I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? But then I thought it would be really fucking cool. And then I thought that idea scares the shit out of me. And then I thought, if I was to do that, and if I actually thought about this quite deeply. I thought, yeah, at the end, it's going to be really fucking hard, isn't it? It's very hard to remain objective, and everyone loses their mind. This is a known thing that it's hard to be objective and hard to see your physique for what it is, and hard to keep your head on. And it's like this is why people have coaches at that end bit, and especially when you're peaking yourself, it's like the ability to remain objective gets harder and harder, but also the intricacies of the decision making get more and more extreme. And you've got these two contradicting things. And that requires you to fucking keep your head on whilst still making decisions about your body. And I thought, if I could do that, then the contribution to my own personal development, my own character development is going to be immense. And the crossover from not only me being a better bodybuilder, a better coach, which are two things that I value a lot because they're my main pursuits, but also a better person in its entirety because then I'm able to master my mind and my body and have it as one. And I got to this point where I'm so into that idea of the self-mastery from that it's going to teach me to regulate my emotions and teach me to separate the emotional based decisions to objective based decisions. I got attached to that to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I get there, I get to the depths of it, and I'm actually showing people less of my physique. I don't want any second eyes. I don't, I've got these blinkers on. I really want to do this myself. And I've had people giving me advice. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And trust me, what I did to keep myself accountable is I would check in on social media and I would just be honest about my approach and what I was doing. And I'm like, if I fuck up, everyone's going to know. And I would admit it. It's my accountability. And I've admitted, but there's my lesson. I'm going to learn from this. If the worst case scenario, I'm going to learn. That's the worst case scenario is I learn I could be better anyway. The best case scenario works exactly to plan.
And it did.
Uh, And it did. And it got to a point where it was right before the show. And I made a post about this, but the actual pro show itself was a last minute decision. And I was not planning on peaking then. So that required me to fucking have a more extreme approach, which took a lot of certainty away from it. And then there was a lot of, okay, I'm going to make this decision. I hope to God it will pay off. And then I got this innate ability where I could look at myself. And I'm not looking at sheets. I'm not looking at, the amount of macros and calories. Da, 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 da. I'm looking at myself. I'm like, I need this much of this and this much of this. Da, 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 da. And then I'm envisioning how it's going to play out. And it does. I'm able to also look at myself and go, you look shit here, but this is why, and not feel anything emotionally from it.
Mm.
And it got to a point just before I actually stepped on stage for the overall for the pro card. And it was very weird because a lot of people would have the coaches behind the stage and keeping an eye of them out on them and stuff like that. They could send photos and shit like that to the coach. I've got to this point where I'm backstage right before the overall. I'm just feeling, I can't see my physique really. I just feel, I'm like, I'm going to start fading. I need one square of dark chocolate here. And I was like, so I literally ran from the lineup, got that dark chocolate, munched it, got back in the lineup, and then I started posing. And from what I've seen in the videos and what people have said and what I believe to be true, it was quite close. And as the posing went on, my physique just looked better. And I believe that was the merits of, that last minute decision then coming into play, you know. And that was the epitome of me, for me, mastering my mind and my body.
Yeah.
And then that realization happened, and then the pro card came. And then this is crazy. This is what we touched on earlier. The pro card was just a symbol of that whole fucking process. And that's why I'm glad I got it this year because it allowed me the opportunity to do that.
Mm.
And don't get me wrong, it's not an easy task. If anyone's done that, you'll know it's hard. And it takes a lot of mental energy. It does to keep yourself balanced.
Mm.
But again, we grow through discomfort, don't we? And it's yeah, although it was uncomfortable to go, right, all this is on me. I can't just check in and go, yeah, I can follow whatever he's saying when my mind's scrambled. Like if my mind's scrambled, you've got to fucking get it back on. You've got to unscramble it, and fucking work out what the fuck to do. Especially because I did it in the way of one, entering last minute shows, and two, I was like, I don't want to fucking have second eyes.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. It was like there was something in me. It was like, make this as hard as fucking possible.
I love
Don't make it easy on yourself.
that. Too fucking easy.
Too fucking easy. Oh, it's too fucking easy. Make it harder. And I
I
felt
love
that. I was like, cool, let's do a fucking pro show.
that. And then, of course,
Yeah.
something that many people, I'm sure, would be a bit of a dream to stand on stage with the one and only C-Bum. And it'd be cool to hear about that because obviously you got the pro card. That wasn't planned as such, although it was going to happen one day, right? And then obviously C-Bum announces he's going to do that show, and then suddenly you're going
Mm.
to do that show.
Yeah, it just happened to be there. I wasn't chasing him or anything. I didn't actually. It just happened to be there. He was following me, right? No,
Sweet.
it started as a joke. I posted online. I literally said, so I put up a Q&A and someone was like, are you going to do the prog? And I was like, should I? And people were like, yeah, you should, you should, you should. And then I put as a post as a joke, I was like, I might fuck around and do a C-bomb and enter the prog as my open debut as a pro, as a joke. And then people were like, yeah, do it, do it, do it, do it. And I got into then I started considering it. And it was weird because usually after a prep, I will, treat myself. But for some reason, I was staying strict. And
Mm.
that was the night I posted was the night I was planning on having a fucking pizza. I love a good pizza. And then people were saying, do it, do it, do it. And then I started getting into this paralysis. And I literally couldn't move. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then I start asking people that I trust to talk me out of it. And there was not one person that did, because I was asking people that I trusted.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd like to think that these guys had the my best interests at heart. And they're right, especially looking back at retrospect and all these guys on social media. If you're watching this, thank you if you bullied me into that show because it was very much true that I'm in this position where I haven't off-seasoned enough to not go backwards. This show's coming up, and this show is a once in a lifetime. One, it's not too far away from England. It's abroad. Two, you've got three divisions competing in one, all in the open. You've got Martin from the open, you've got Sean Clarida from the 212, and of course you had C-Bomb doing his last ever show at this. It's like a fucking side quest. And I was like, okay, what type of person are you going to be? You'll be that fucking person who eats the fucking pizza on the couch and watches this show. Are you going to be in the fucking show? You can be in this show. You can be in the show. You can be watching it as a fan, or you could be in it as a competitor. And I think that's why I was having a hard time accepting it because I was like, fuck, for the first time, I can actually, because I was so excited to watch this show. I even put it on my stories. Like, I cannot wait to watch this show. This show's going to go down in history. And then, like, again, it dawned on me that I can actually fucking be in this show. And then I enter this show, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? I literally just got the pro card, and I'm entering like this level of a show. I'm like, what the fuck? And yeah, there was a bit of an imposter syndrome. And I think a lot of people who get the pro card get that imposter syndrome.
Mm.
That might be just a part of trying to do it for years and years, and then instantly you just get it out of nowhere after attempting so long. And I'm glad I did it because it really helped with that imposter syndrome effect because I wasn't 100% of that show. I'll tell you that. No, I definitely wasn't 100%. One, because it was unplanned. I was like 2 weeks into like an off-season health phase, and then I had 2 weeks to fucking undo that shit. But whilst trying to undo that shit, I became ill. I had a fucked up jab in my leg where I couldn't walk. And then I had 10 pounds exit my body through leaky bum syndrome. And like, and then I flew away to Prague as that was ending. And I was like, if I don't come last, that'll be a fucking miracle. And I didn't come last. I actually, I fucking beat 10 pros. I was like, what the fuck?
Mm.
But then the dickhead competitor in me goes, it would have been good if you placed higher though, wouldn't it? And then this is why I had to check myself. I had to catch myself and go, yeah, but yesterday, was that your mindset? No. And fortunately, I wrote my expectations for the show and I put it out there. A lot of the time, I use social media to just hold myself accountable
For sure.
or as like a journal to reflect on and to go, you know, and luckily I put that out there on social media, what my expectations were. And that helped me stop being a dick, really, and undermining what the fuck just happened. I looked at the expectations. It was like, go there, have some good memories, good experience, get some content, don't come last, you know. And I'm like, did you do those things? Yes. Cool. You've exceeded your expectations. So leave it at that. Leave it at that and go home and have some fucking pizza. This time you fucking earned it. Yeah,
Done enough now.
you've
For
done enough. You've done enough.
It's always weird when you get to that like the first pizza or whatever it is you choose. Sometimes you have that like you either just get stuck in and you forget it goes so quick and you're like fucking hell, or you're
Yeah.
like, is it time to have the food? And it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it?
I always have, yeah, because it's that little bit of freedom. You're like, oh my God, I'm out of, it feels like you've been let out.
Whole new world.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I think you're like, I would nibble and nibble. You're like, oh my God. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
It's,
it's nice.
yeah, it's all gone. And for me, like, I've learned that I could just consume things without it filling me up after prep at all. And that's why I'm like, yeah, this is the pizza that I had. Smee would tell you from illegal nutrition, like I had the fucking pizza and I was like Pringles. I was getting the fucking Pringles out like this in my hand.
What flavor?
I don't know.
Oh,
Just was picking Pringles and what because he was the shit that they ate all week.
yeah.
So I was just hoovering up after him. And I remember Smee going, yeah, I'm keeping up with you here. And I'm like, I'm not trying to, I'm just eating as much as I physically can, just because I'm having a good time, really.
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
enjoying it.
It was good. It was good. But for people listening, that isn't like a continued state of me eating shit. That is, it took a while to get to the point where I could go, right, I can have that fun and then I can cut it off and have no issues after that.
Yeah, take
That's a
time.
whole other ball game of discussion, to get to that point, really.
Mm,
Um, yeah, ultimately it was a fucking sick time and I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I got bullied into it.
mm, mm.
I'm glad I did it.
Well, wait to see out your season. Now, I'm going to
Mm.
ask you, I wonder if you'll change your answer from the first pod we recorded, but I'm going to ask you this is the last time I'm going to ask this question because this season of competitor journeys, you're the last one of 2024. It's also the last episode of the year and it's celebrating 3 years of the podcast, my G, me and you,
Boop, boop, boop.
me and you. So, if you could give some advice to the younger Jack when you first started bodybuilding, for anyone that's listening, maybe we've touched on first timers, etc., haven't we? And even seasoned competitors will be like, ah, okay. What would be the biggest thing you would say if you could go back from what you know now?
Well, I don't know. It's like I go back and I'm like, I'm not going to tell you if you get it or not. I'm just going to tell you to fucking keep going
Yeah.
and do everything that you're fucking doing now.
Mm, mm.
Make all the mistakes. Probably don't ego lift as much. Save your shoulder. Probably don't get fucking injured as much. But yeah, just constantly aim to be better, and enjoy the shit out of it and be as present as you possibly can and recognize that even the most important show of your fucking life at the time is not that deep. There's always more shows that follow, that pursue afterwards. You know, it's not all dependent on one singular show. It may feel like that at the time, but that show doesn't make or break you as a bodybuilder. It doesn't mean that if you lose that show, you shouldn't be competing.
Mm,
You'll get the places that you want. Remember, it's a subjective sport, you know, and it's okay to make mistakes. Those mistakes are lessons. And when you win, be grateful but gracious and still improve.
mm.
Win or lose, still improve and always be willing to give more than it entails. And that way, it'll forever be too fucking easy.
My G. Now, we're also going to be doing a webinar together on the 12th of January. So, anyone that's listening that I haven't sent the link to, you can have an idea today from listening to the podcast about what Jack and I are going to bring, the vibe we're going to bring, and we're going to be talking about mastering your thoughts.
And the
So,
glutes.
if you're watching the YouTube, or if you're listening, you need to watch the YouTube. We've had Ronnie Coleman's glutes in the background for the whole session today, and
And
this
nice.
also this gives an insight into mine and Jack's brains and how they actually work. Why everything makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly, it makes complete sense.
You need to watch this last bit, guys. We've currently got a dog that has got a green hoodie on, and Jack is Z dog.
I am I'm a dog.
I'm posting these on social media for sure. And of course,
Get that
guys,
ball.
keep watching our social media because if you saw the reel drop yesterday, I mean, we've got some serious content coming. And we've called ourselves the two dickheads. So
Dickheads.
there we
Don't
go.
forget.
The two easy dickheads.
to-
We might get matching apparel and it involves Jesus, but we'll leave a cliffhanger.
Involves Jesus.
So
Yeah.
much to come, my people. So thank you, Jack. What a sesh.
Yeah, we've had a good sesh. We were able to record this.
Yeah. I
Will
mean,
it go
guys,
out? Who knows? Will there be a fourth attempt?
I'm sure they will. And the webinar. We got so
Yeah.
much to come, my G. 2025. We are coming for it.
It's just
Thank you.
no worries. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my people. See you later.
Goodbye.